Black Adam. So Black Adam is a continuation of the DC Extended Universe, specifically the 11th instalment so far. Judging from the past track record of films in the DCEU so far, that it was just going to be another shoe-in, that it really wouldn't add that much value to it, and it would just fall short, and it would just be one on its own, really. And that was my initial thinking with Black Adam going into this film. I was hoping that it was going to be entertaining enough and fun enough to just enjoy for pure entertainment, and holding on to the hope that I would be at least a little bit surprised in terms of how it's made and the characters and the narrative, and also going forward into the future what it could contribute. So nearly 5,000 years after he was bestowed with the almighty powers of the Egyptian gods and imprisoned just as quickly, Black Adam is freed from his earthly tomb, ready to unleash his unique form of justice on the modern world. So again, he's another character who has a lot of background and context around how he got the powers and why, because of course it's set largely in the past, about 5,000 years ago, as I've already mentioned, but within today's time period. So the narrative is pretty much set in one particular place, but within two different time periods. And I thought to myself going into this film that it would intertwine quite frequently between the 5,000 years ago period and the current period, a bit like how the character himself changes transitions by just simply saying the word Shazam, which is an immediate indication that this film is in fact a spin-off of the other DCEU film, Shazam. And to be honest, even though I kind of partially expected it, the narrative was just really poorly developed. I just didn't really engage with it at all, really. It was lazy, it was sluggish, it didn't really kind of feel up to date, in my honest opinion. In many ways, it reminded me a lot of superhero films that we had in the mid-2000s, films such as Elektra and Daredevil and Catwoman. It kind of just felt like very, very poorly made and poorly performed kind of superhero film that just didn't really add much or contribute anything at all, really. And that's what I think really let this film down, that it just didn't really pay attention to the details. It didn't really kind of have a plan of what it was trying to achieve and where it wanted to go afterwards through the story. And even the production aspects were a little bit off as well. The CGI was a bit, I'm not really sure. And there were certain moments that Zack Snyder would have absolutely loved, such as the use of slow motion, and it didn't feel as epic as a lot of slow motion action sequences would. And when you've got slow motion action sequences, you want to be glued to the screen, where you're like, you know, those kind of feelings where you just feel really kind of drawn into the story. But it just didn't feel like that at all. It just felt like, come on, get on with it. And it just really kind of dragged it out, and it just didn't really kind of work with the nature of the film. And I think what I found frustrating watching Black Adam was that it was a film that kind of tried too hard, yet it did very little. For example, the humour and the comedy didn't really work in this film either, where it just felt like it was just added in for the sake of it. And if anything, for me, it just felt awkward and uncomfortable. I think a large portion of that is the fact that many DC characters are a lot more serious in terms of character arcs and tone, in terms of their representation and portrayal in film and television. They're taken a little bit too seriously, and that's why the humour doesn't really work. I mean, there was one particular character who I kind of got quite frustrated with actually while watching it. He looked like Deadpool, but he grew bigger like Ant-Man, and I just couldn't really find myself to engage with how the film portrayed the humour and also the action as well. It was just like, that was the kind of emotion that I felt watching this film. And a part of me isn't entirely surprised, while also I'm a little bit disappointed, because given the fact that it's the 11th instalment of the DC Extended Universe, that it would at least have some kind of direction and emotion by now in terms of character development and narrative structure, in terms of building the scale up even more, that it would go somewhere, but it just still isn't going anywhere at all. It's actually the standalone DC films that have come out in recent years, such as the Batman and Joker, that are doing better than these films are. And also I think the dialogue frustrated me a little bit as well, where it was just too predictable. The twists and turns were obviously going to happen, and it just kind of felt very wooden and very, very plain. And you just didn't engage with that either. You didn't kind of feel any chemistry at all between the characters. And on the subject of the characters, of course, as I mentioned, Dwayne Johnson plays Black Adam in this film, and there were kind of mixed expectations about it, really. I mean, look at the man. He's got the physical attributes to become a superhero, but the question remained for me, has he got the personality? And will the star of the show end up outshining the character when it should actually be the other way round? And I find Black Adam quite a weak character anyway, because he's basically a jumble between Superman and Shazam. Shazam. And the characteristics of those two superheroes pretty much make him invincible, where he can't be hit by a bullet, where he's wounded, and he can't be punched in the face, where he's got a black eye, and, you know, he's almost got no vulnerabilities at all. And I think that's something that kind of defeats the point of being the superhero, because sometimes you need vulnerabilities and weaknesses to become a better and stronger superhero. And also, it just brings no personality, because he's just basically there, ready to be hit, and he's just standing there like a statue. And that's what I felt happened a lot in this film, really. And maybe that is a large portion of Dwayne Johnson's performance and what he was told to do to kind of give us that feeling of this character being invincible and being very powerful. But I think from an emotional point of view of how he engages with the audience, I don't think it was quite there. It didn't quite develop the backstory of the character and the relationship that he had with his family and with the king as well, from the historical story and how it relates to the modern time. He was just basically Dwayne Johnson in a big bulky suit who just kind of fired electricity. That's all it was, really. He didn't kind of feel like Black Adam, it just felt like Dwayne Johnson in a suit. And Pierce Brosnan makes an appearance in this as well, because of course we all know him as another certain hero, but I think in this one he kind of missed the trick as well, because he wasn't like very powerful or very dominant, and, you know, he wasn't really someone who we kind of felt engaged with. Yes, he was able to, you know, create illusions and put a mask on, but again, no personality. And that's where this film falls short again, from not just the leading character but the supporting ones too. And even the eventual antagonist wasn't very intimidating either. And there were times when I was kind of thinking to myself, is Black Adam the villain here, or are the troop of people who are there to kind of help him the villains as well, who are kind of going against him? So there was kind of confusion really about who the hero and the villains were. And then when the real villain came out, it wasn't until like the last 20 minutes. There wasn't enough to develop him, apart from him being a relative of someone in the past. That's literally it. There was nothing to him. And I felt like the CGI was a bit off with him as well, where there wasn't really kind of a climax or an exciting build-up to hero versus villain, and that he would make any contribution at all really to the DCE extended universe. So overall, Black Adam was kind of rubbish, if I'm being honest. It was absolutely dire. I didn't enjoy it at all, really. It was a film that was disappointing because I was expecting it to be something that would lead up to the future, but also as a film on its own, it was just lazy and it was sluggish, and it just didn't seem like it made any real effort at all to be entertaining. There just seems to be too many of the same kind of characters, but still don't interlink with each other. And I'm sure I'm going to make a lot of people watching this video laugh with the comments I'm about to make, but because the film had trailers and adverts before the film was shown in the cinema, I think I'd rather watch 2 hours of film trailers and adverts than watch that film again. So yeah, as you can no doubt tell, I didn't enjoy Black Adam at all. It wasn't very good, it wasn't entertaining, and I didn't find it funny either. So what did you think of Black Adam? Do you have the same kind of thoughts about it as me, or did you actually enjoy this film? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you did want to enjoy this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more, and to have a notification bell ticked so you're notified when I upload a new video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.